Okay. 8:09 is the time in the studios of Q95 FM Radio. We've just turned on our Facebook Live because we wanted to ensure that you didn't get involved in all the background talk going on in the studios. We're showing, setting me up and making sure that everything is all good in the studios, but we are live now on Facebook, and we're beginning on my page, and we will now share it. I do not have an assistant, so I almost have to make sure that I get all of this going right away. So we're going to share that now to our group, which is the In the Spotlight Radio Show group, so you can check it out there. And I'm also sharing it to my In the Spotlight Radio Show page, so we have a page for that. And I'm also sharing it to my public page, which is Ferdina Frampton, so you can check it out. Many options to view the show live tonight. But let me begin by saying a pleasant good evening to one and all, wherever you are tuned in to the program tonight. It is a pleasure to have you, and it is a pleasure to be here with you. I would have opted tonight, my preference would have been to stay home, because a little rain is coming down. You know, I tried to take a little 5 before I came here, and I wanted to stay in the zone of the little 5 and not to get out. But anyway, I had to, because I have to be here for you, and I couldn't have this lovely lady coming here and I don't show up. You know, not at all. So welcome once again, one and all. Let me do some acknowledgements before we begin. Of course, always grateful to Q95 FM for giving me the airtime to be able to do this show, to bring this amazing show to you on a Monday night. This is our second show since the year started, and after a long break, last week we had Anderson Jolly Jr. up in here, and he was quite dynamic on the program, and I suspect we have an equally dynamic guest tonight. I would also like to say thank you to Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited. Josephine Gabriel ensures that we're talking for 2 hours, so we need a sip of water occasionally, and so Josephine Gabriel and Company ensures that we have our Trois Pitons water, pure Dominica water, to quench our thirst while we have our conversation tonight. Thank you for that. I also got from Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited complimentary wine for my guest tonight, and it's Barefoot wine from Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited. I would just ask if Mr. Weekes does drink wine. Just give me a nod. No? Okay, all right. Thank you, Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, for providing our water, pure Trois Pitons water, which is our pure Dominica water, and also for providing us with this beautiful bottle of Barefoot wine. I've posted a picture in the group, so you can go there and check it out as well. And of course, by that, I have to say to you as well, be sure to support Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited. Now, Deepex is going to come on board with me effective tonight to provide a token for each of our guests on a Monday night. Tonight, the choice of token for tonight is a mug, and In the Spotlight Radio Show mug, and everything provided by Deepex. They'll provide the mug, and they'll provide the printing of the mug with the In the Spotlight logo, and that will be a token for my guest tonight. It is not here, but we'll ensure that our guest gets her token. So she gets a bottle of wine from Josephine Gabriel, and she gets a mug. You may have other gifts from Josephine Gabriel, like we forward vouchers, printing vouchers, you know, whatever the case might be. But I really want to say thank you to Emil Deputa for agreeing to do this through his business Deepex to provide a token for our guests on a Monday night. This is really, really appreciated, Emil, and the team at DPEX. I want to say thanks to Jordan Jerome. Assist me with my video. When you see the In the Spotlight logo on my promotional video, it is Jordan Jerome, aka GK, who does that for me. And I also want to acknowledge Akim Lowe of Innovate Multimedia. Now, I have to say that Akim Lowe is an exceptionally talented young gentleman, and he's the one who does all those beautiful flyers that you see for me for the In the Spotlight radio show. And I really would like to thank Akim for always executing what I think is clean, very clean, beautiful work. And I just want to say to Akim, thank you for his work. And of course, you, the listeners, you, the fans of the program, I am grateful to you. I am thankful to you for your support. In and out, year in, year out, whether I'm here, whether I'm not here, you still continue to support. You know yourselves, and I really want to thank all of you. Those of you who are listening via the airwaves of Q95 FM, and also those of you who are live on my whatever of my Facebook, my social media platforms that you choose. And again, I have the In the Spotlight Radio Show page, and then we have the group by In the Spotlight Radio Show. There is my own personal page that you can choose to follow me. There is my public page, which is Ferdina Frampton. I am on Instagram, and I recently launched a little something called Triple F Marketing and Advertising, and I'll tell you more about that another time. But yes, sometimes you have to do a little something, when you go to school and you have other things, you have to try a little something. And I hope that you guys will definitely support me in my efforts. A fan of this show, she reached out live on Facebook. She said it, she said she wouldn't mind paying a small subscription, whether monthly or annually, to give some support to the show. I would welcome that, but probably on the next program, we can probably talk a bit more about that. Maybe you can give a little contribution, whether via mobile banking or whatever other means available. It would really be appreciated, because I do this all from my heart. And definitely sometimes I have to dig in my pocket as well. But I do what I have to do. 16 minutes past the hour. We're taking this very, very short break, and then we're coming back to begin the In the Spotlight radio show for tonight. Thank you again for choosing us. Thank you for tuning in.
In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio, every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight, featuring people from all walks of life, spotlighting their triumphs and tragedies, dreams, hopes, aspirations, untold stories, touching the human and personal side of people in politics, religion, sports, business, music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know our farmers, our public servants, youth, and the ordinary Dominican. Listen to their stories. No limitations, no restrictions, no holds barred. In the Spotlight will also spotlight interesting topics, issues, and relevant situations. Don't miss In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from 8 p.m. In the Spotlight.
All right, if you're ready to go, we are. Good evening again, everyone, and welcome to the program. It is a pleasure to have you. It's a bit rainy on the outside here in Dominica. How is it in your part of the world? Whatever time it is in your part of the world, whether it be 1 o'clock in the morning and you are up with us, we appreciate it. And now we get ready to say good evening to our guest for tonight. I'll allow her to introduce herself. Good evening, fair lady.
Good evening, Ferdina, and all the people listening to Q95 and following the In the Spotlight radio show by whatever means. I greet you warmly from Dominica, and I will already warn you and tell you, make sure you have everything you need because you won't be able to move for the next hour, 45 minutes. You're going to be glued.
That's it. That's what I like. Oh my goodness. How about that for marketing the show? I need say nothing more. Today it is a pleasure to have you in the studios. Thank you again for consenting to be here and consenting to be a guest on the program. You were actually supposed to have been the third Monday in October. You had already done your video, we already had your photos, I already had your bio, we had everything all set to go. And then, you know, I had been going to the doctor for my eye situation, and then when doc said on the Wednesday you're going into surgery the next day, we obviously could not proceed with Delia for the following Monday, because by then, you know, I would have had done the surgery, and my Cuffy-Weekes would have to wait a little longer, and it appeared in 2021. We agreed actually that she was going to be the first guest when we resumed, because she was supposed to be next, and we were all set to go again. And then I kindly asked her to do a switcheroo, and she said no problem, Ferdina, and I was so happy and grateful for that. But here she is tonight.
But Ferdina, you see, everything happens in its own time.
Correct.
So we don't question why things don't happen at the time that we plan.
Correct.
Because God knows best.
That is absolutely true. We cannot question that at all. And so I'm going to allow you to say good evening. Well, you did already to everyone, did you?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Just general.
Just
so
general.
the thing about it is that if I am to greet specific people, you know what is going to happen.
It's a problem. We'll be there for the whole night just greeting people.
And apart from which, even if we're there for the whole night, somebody's still going to be left out. So to avoid all of this, let's go into the program.
Is Mr. Weekes listening?
Well, he had better.
Delia, come and say. So Delia, I should before we continue, indicate to you again, let me offer you formally your bottle of wine from Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, and I want to thank Jenny and the team down there. In fact, she's provided me with my wine for my next 6 guests.
Wow.
Yes, so thank you so much for that, Jenny. It is really, really appreciated. I have found, Delia, that I probably should ask a little more, because whenever I ask, hardly ever does anyone say no to me. And I don't know for what reason, you know, that people are always so willing. But I sent Emil Debuta a message last evening. I said, Emil, this is what I need, you know, and whatever. And he just came back, no problem, Ferdina.
But you see, Ferdina, this show is one of those shows that anybody across Dominica can listen to it. And in fact, I am thinking that quite apart from asking people for little tokens for your guests, you should ask people to partner with you.
I agree.
So that it would have started off as Ferdina's show,
yes,
but you would now have partners that you can depend on.
I agree.
And the partners could be companies or individuals, it doesn't really matter. When there is something good, we need to throw our support behind it.
Yes, I agree, Delia, and thank you for that as well. And I do hope, you know, that that people will. I have a friend in the US. I have not met her. She's Bajan. Came across the In the Spotlight radio show by accident and became a fan from there. She's been to Dominica, I think, once or twice. And pretty soon there's going to be a box of t-shirts on its way to me, branded t-shirts, you know, at least 50 of them. And they're coming from her and a friend. You know, people are kind, and generous. And I appreciate their generosity. So I know I have a partner in this particular individual. So I suspect I just need to create some more of those partnerships.
Because, you know, as you're saying that, this morning when we were doing devotion, my husband was reading this thing and he spoke about we do not get because we ask, and we ask small.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had this discussion, and I'm saying to him, you know, sometimes somebody may say, Lord, all I need is bus fare so I can get to work and back.
Yes.
And yes, God will provide that for you.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you were to say, I really want to have my own place, it doesn't have to be a castle, but I need a house that may be closer to my workplace and a means of getting there, that is nothing for God to do. But we ask small, and so we get small. So we have to start asking big. And sometimes what we may think is big is peanuts for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have to broaden your scope in how you sell yourself and how you put yourself out there. And then you'll be amazed at the things that just come rolling in.
Yes. And that's all I'll say to that. But it's going to force me now to begin my conversation with you. And you spoke about you and Mr. Weekes doing morning devotion.
Mm-hmm.
From Mr. Weekes' program, and prior to that, I know that you and Mr. Weekes, and when we say Mr. Weekes, you're referring to your husband,
yes,
Claude Weekes, one of my favorite people. You belong to different denominations.
Yes, but we worship the same God.
You worship the same God.
I am a Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
My husband is Pentecostal.
And how does that work in your household?
It works because we pray together. We worship the same God. We discuss. It is not just praying by rote or standing somewhere in the house and shouting loud to God so that He can hear you.
So one is not in the corner doing his own thing and another one in the room,
No.
praying the rosary.
We have to keep each other covered. And so sometimes we pray separately and we do pray together. I go with him when he goes to church. Sometimes he's ministering. In fact, this week, 2 nights he has to preach in Jubla. I will be accompanying him.
Oh.
And when there are things happening at my church and I invite him, he comes along. So there's absolutely nothing wrong. It is just that people must understand that regardless of what denomination you belong to, you have to know God for yourself. You cannot say, my mother, my husband, my sister is a praying person, so I'm covered. You have to have that relationship with God yourself.
So you all wake up in the morning and you pray together?
Yes, we do. We pray in the evening. And sometimes, depending on what information we get during the day, we call up each other and say, look, this situation, I've come across it, so join me in prayer. Whatever. Prayer is part of our life.
Wow.
And it has nothing to do with Hail Mary or Yahweh or anything like that. Prayer is prayer, and we pray to the same God.
I visited you at the gardens earlier this week so we could do a promotional video.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying to you, I asked you, how is Mr. Weekes? And you responded to me that I'm the happiest woman on the face of the earth.
I know that.
And I was taken aback or some way like that our conversation went, but you know the crux of what I'm referring to. And I was very happy to hear that, Delia. To ask a woman how is her husband, and the response that comes is, I am the happiest woman on the face of the planet.
Yes, because he's doing his homework, Ferdina. He is doing what he is supposed to do as a husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has a very happy wife. And obviously she's going to reciprocate, so he should be a very happy man.
I am sure he's a very happy man. Delia, how different or similar are the two of you?
We have some things in common, and we have some things that we are quite different. My husband is a person, he's very oral, he's very vocal. He loves to speak. The difference with me is that I speak when I have to. But I'm going to make a statement that most people do not accept when I say that to them. I am very, very shy. And I would rather, my ideal life would be just put me somewhere in a little corner and let me do my stuff and don't disturb me. And people find that so very difficult to understand. But the thing about it is, there are things that need to be done. And both of us are people, when we are convinced about something, we are prepared to stand behind what we believe. So people are like, boy, so the people who know me, and they do not know my husband very well, sometimes they say, boy, I'm sorry for your husband.
I know.
Because they think, I have such a strong personality.
You appear to have a very strong personality.
I am very opinionated. And I can be very stubborn.
I see.
When I am convinced that this is what needs to be done.
Okay.
And so because of that, people are like, boy, Mr. Weekes must be having a hard time with you. But that's not true. I say to them, I am one of the women who believe in submitting to her husband.
All right.
And the people are sometimes taken aback because they're like, Mom, Weekes, submit. But I said to them, that passage of scripture is generally misunderstood. And so a lot of women, when they hear wives submit to your husband, they're like, women liberated. What are you telling me about submit to which man? He not born yet. But the truth of the matter is submission is a mutual thing. So I explained it to one gentleman and he understood what I was talking about.
Explain it to us.
I said, so take for example, you get up one morning and there is one slice of bread in the house. Now, the husband has options. He may say, I am the man of the house and I must get the bread. Or he may say to his wife, you can have half of the bread because I give it to you. Now, because the wife knows that there is one slice of bread in the house, she can get up during the night and she go to the fridge and she lathers the bread in peanut butter and she eats bread and peanut butter. So tomorrow morning we have no bread. However, what you may find is that the husband may say, oh, I don't really need all that carbs and whatever it is. So he might say, honey, if you want, you can have the whole slice of bread. And she may say to him, no,
you have
let's share it,
yes.
half. And because he did not pig it out, then she says to herself that, he cares about me. So I do not have a problem now reciprocating and sharing what I have with him. And so it is not just a thing of me for myself, but you always think of the other person.
Yes.
Is that something that the person would prefer? So there's one slice of bread, but there's also biscuits. And the husband likes bread, but he doesn't really like biscuits. So you say, okay, baby, have the slice of bread, and I'll have some biscuits instead. And when people can understand and be willing to make sacrifice for the other party, then both are willing to submit to each other. And basically you have a peaceful home. It's but not to say that auntie doesn't have the quarrel, because not two angels in the house. Sometimes I have problems with my own self, much less for a totally different person outside of me. But it is just to get to an understanding, talk things out, do not let things stay and fester, because that is a recipe for disaster.
But Delia, this is your interpretation and your understanding of it. However, there are some men who really take this literally and really want their wives or their women to submit to them.
But Ferdina, if submission means that you will do what I say, else I will beat you down. That is not what the good book is talking about at all.
Okay.
You are to respect, you are to love that woman as you love your own body. You will not willfully pick up a hammer and just pound your finger. So why do you want to do it to the woman? You will not do anything to yourself. Love your wife as Christ loves the church. So when you're talking about submission, it's not forcing your way or dominating somebody. That is not what it is. Submission is an act of love, where you willingly give up so that the other can be comfortable. And it goes both ways.
Somebody wants to know if Mr. Weekes has a brother or brothers.
Mr. Weekes is actually the second of 3 siblings. So he has an older brother and a younger sister. They're both in the United Kingdom.
Well, I guess the person wanted to know if the sibling was available.
The brother is very married.
He's very married.
And so is the sister.
Talking about married, Delia. Talking about married. And I can't remember if Mr. Weekes and I spoke about it when he was on. So, Delia, I remember being told, I am going there. I am going there. I was told that Delia and Mr. Weekes went into the High Court, got married, and then they both went their separate ways back to work. What was that, Delia? Is that true?
Yes, it was very, very true. Because, but Daniel, let me tell you, I am a little bit cut and dry. Not that I cannot be romantic, but Mr. Weekes and myself had been together for a little while.
Okay.
And we decided better to legalize it.
Okay. Okay.
No, I am not.
Literally.
Yes. So I am not one for bells and thrills and whistles. I wasn't the person thinking of the big bridal party and all of that. There were very few things that I wanted as part of my wedding.
Really?
One of them was that I had to be married in June. Because there's a little song that says that they say if you marry in June, you will always be a bride.
Is that so? And that was the reason?
Yes. So I always want to feel like a bride, so I want to get married in June. The other specification was that I should get married on a Thursday.
Yes, it was a weekday. I remember that.
Because traditionally, Ferdina, Thursday was the half day. You see like how people work on Saturday morning and Saturday everywhere is shut down?
Correct.
Well, used to be.
Right.
That used to be a Thursday.
Oh.
So people used to get married on a Thursday.
Oh.
And then eventually the work week was shifted around and people started getting married on a Saturday.
I see.
So I said, let's go back to the good old days. I am getting married on a Thursday.
Thursday.
So Thursday in June. And I'm happy.
And what was the third thing? Oh, this was just
those two things. So I got up the morning. I remember clearly. I put on a blue top because they say something old, something new, something borrowed, something new.
You mean not even a dress? You didn't wear a dress?
I put on a blue top and a white skirt.
Okay.
I won't tell you what was borrowed and what was new.
Okay.
And Mr. Weekes put on his work uniform.
Mr. Weekes didn't give me all those details. I thank you for all those details.
And so we went up there, we did our business, we had our witnesses, and then he was working in the High Court at the time, so he dropped me off to work, and he came back to work. We had a lovely lunch at a restaurant. The people knew, so they prepared a special little something.
Just the two of you?
Just the two of us. I mean, there were other people around.
Yes.
We had our own.
Meaning just the two of you, not nobody else from your...
No, just the two of us. And that was it.
Oh.
And I haven't regretted.
I think that's what I should do.
And you know, the interesting part of it for Dinah is that I'm a very private person. And
I realized that about you.
I didn't really tell people what I was going to do. And so after the fact, I made some very tiny cards. Imagine a business card that So the little card is like twice the size of a business card. So you fold it and it's the size of a business card. And in there I wrote, please be informed that on such and such a day that happened after the fact.
And who you send that to?
To all my friends and everybody who needed to know.
And who was upset with you?
Oh well, quite a few people.
Quite a few, I can imagine.
But what I said to them was, look at it on the bright side. I saved you from having to buy a dress and shoes and a gift and a new hairdo and all of that. But if you're so upset that I didn't give you the chance to give me a gift, I'm still accepting. I did get some gifts.
People gave you gifts?
Yeah.
Even if you didn't give them a good time, a bon temps, like we say in Dominica.
Because you see, for me, Ferdina, that is not what makes a marriage.
Correct.
And I've seen so many times that people spend so much money. And for me, even some of the people who attend the ceremony, it is not anything of significance to them. Because they don't really pay attention to what is being said. They're focused on everything else. Look at how she combed her hair. And this and that is the dress she normally goes to church when she comes to the wedding with that. And even while they're eating the food, that now they could get somebody else to catch up
so
for them. And I've actually seen people do strange things at weddings.
So
I've seen people coming with just a card, and they will take off somebody's card from their gift and put their card on there, so it looks as if they were the one who brought it.
People do that?
Yes, of course. I have seen people come to wedding with a gift, not satisfied with what they've eaten, and they go back home with their gifts. So I put myself through all of that.
I agree. And I'm gonna ask the viewers to just click on the love button if you're in support of how Delia and Mr. Weekes got married. If you love it, let us see some of the love buttons coming up there. And they're coming.
And for me, Ferdina, it was so intimate. You understand? And we said, well, okay, you know what? When we're 5 years, we'll have a little social. And 5 years came and went so quickly, so we said, okay, when we're 10. Same story. When we're 15.
Delia, all of this time has passed already? I was at DBS, I remember.
We're going to be 18 years married.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
18
years.
I do recall that I was at DBS and that's where we got the news. I recall that, yes. But congratulations, you seem to be very happy, you and Mr. Weekes.
I am.
And I can only continue to wish you all love, joy, happiness, and that probably when you eventually have to go to meet the maker, that the two of you will go together.
Even that.
So one wouldn't have to leave the other behind.
It has happened, there have been situations where it happened. And in any case, I think I have proven the theory that if you marry in June, there'll always be a bride.
Okay, so I'll have to wait for next year, June.
Choose any June you want. Choose any June you want.
Delia, thank you for sharing that with us. I know it's personal, but you still opted to share it with us. And I think that persons who are listening and probably considering may just decide to go that route, because I think it's the easier route. I know too many people to even have a go effect and a whole
And then you end up with enemies, because I know a young lady who ended up with 2 matrons of honor because 2 of her close friends, nobody decided to back down, and that is too much drama.
Too much
drama.
Too much. So, my dear lady, let us talk some more. Moi, ça vous c'est Jean Guabe.
Ah, moi pas Jean Guabe.
Moi
c'est Moun Guabe.
Vous c'est Moun Guabe. Qui ça qui différence là, Delia?
I was explaining to somebody that in Granby we have this thing where we say there was only one Jean. He lived in Laridale, then he moved to Highland, and he has since passed. So there's no Jean Guabe now, because Jean has died. So he was Jean Guabe, and all of us, the rest, we are Moun Guabe.
So we say Moun Guabe?
Oui, moi c'est Moun Guabe.
Oh, eh bien, bon. Let me say good evening to Anderson Jolly Jr. I see he's locked in tonight. Thank you, Andy, for joining us tonight on the program. I'm not sure if you're in Dominica, but wherever you are and you're tuned in, thank you. So, Delia, tell me, first of all, Grand Bay people, or Moon Bay, they're very proud of Grand Bay. What about Grand Bay that, makes you all feel so proud of being from that part of Dominica?
I will tell you what I have been told, that the community of Grand Bay was never an enslaved community. So in fact, a lot of the people from Grand Bay, they are descendants of liberated Africans. And so they guard that freedom fiercely. And that is why sometimes we come across as loud and aggressive, but that is just, our way of being. We do not allow people to trample upon us, and we know who we are proud of who we are. So that is why everybody from Grand Bay can tell you, you can take me out of Grand Bay, you cannot take Grand Bay out of me. And there is a certain sense of pride. And for me, I think Grand Bay people are not just proud of themselves, but the accomplishments of other Grand Bayrians. Even though you may not have been appreciated while you were there. But for example, people may hear me on the radio tonight, and they might tell somebody, Vinikute, Zanfa, Bowe, Pidafni, Wambewi Ofet, Mama Elisete, Wama Mamai. So they tie you down now, so you can never really escape. And then with that sense of belonging, how do you want to escape from that? At least it keeps you grounded.
At the same time, there was also a stigma as it relates to Grand Bay about it being a place where a lot of bad man came from, or where a lot of bad things happened in Grand Bay.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that, Ferdina, sometimes when people do not really understand you, they don't make the time to get to know you. So they would rather create stories. So for example, all the stories of Sukuyan, Lugaru, and $5 fighting, and that is part of our culture.
Yes.
And if it makes you afraid of coming to Grand Bay, then it's your loss. Because people have actually said that, boy, I was so afraid to go to Grand Bay, but when I got there, it was totally different to what I had been told. I remember my favorite time of year up to this time in relation to Grand Bay is Fête Saint-Isidore. Ferdina, every year when I go to service and you see that offertory procession is coming down, Ferdina, I am always moved to tears. I just get so emotional. And then it has been toned down in comparison to the traditional way, because then you have, after the service, the different groups of workers would dance up the lally in all of their colors and their different things from their trade, and all houses were open to all and sundry. And so you'd have people coming to your home, eating, people that you've never met, people that you're seeing for the first time. I remember one gentleman who waltzed into our house. He was very, very, very intoxicated. He was not from the village. He was a visitor. It is soup. And Ferdina, there was food on the table. He sat down. He ate. Then he went to use the bathroom. He made a mess and this and that. And life goes on. I know the gentleman. He doesn't know me. If I were to tell him that to his face today, he would not know what I'm talking about. He was drunk.
As a skunk.
But he had food. Nobody turned him away to say, well, you're drunk, don't come into my house. And, that is why even if I live away from Grand Bay, when you see that time comes, my husband will bring me up. And for years, he would say to me, okay, I am going to drop you and then I will go to the police station. And 9 out of 10 times, I enter through the side door of the church, and he goes round the back and enter through the main door. So he's there in the service with me.
Oh.
Life is good.
Life is good. Life has to be good.
Oh yes.
It has to be good. But that life, Delia, tell me about how it started in Granby.
I'm actually the third of my mother's 10 children.
10?
Yes.
Okay.
My mother is one of those people who is born to be a mother. In actual fact, she said from the time she was a little girl, she wanted to have 12 children. 12. She made 10, and from there she just started adopting people's children. So our house has always been open to children.
And interestingly, if anybody, this lady looks like a teenager.
Yes, because we will get to the story of the fountain of youth a little later. And then from there, I went to Teacher Leah's school.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who's somebody in Granby would have gone to Teacher Leah's school. At the time she was Teacher Leah Jean Boudou, because she was married to a Frenchman. And then she eventually became Commodore. That lady taught my mother in preschool. She taught a woman who taught my mother in preschool. So she is like the eternal preschool teacher. And she was the first person that I saw have children dancing. So she would use bottle tops to make little percussion instruments and have the children dancing and singing. She had a pomerac tree in her yard. So at snack time, she would pick pomerac for all of us, and we sit down. And one of the funny things about her, she was also the postmistress. So when my first sister, Cleo don't kill me,
my friend,
was going to Teacher Leah's school. So normally what she would do at the end of the school day, she would give the children the letters for their parents. So that day, most of the children got letters, but there was nothing for my mother. And Miss Cleo decided, I am not going home without a letter.
Cleo Modi like that for real.
So poor Teacher Leah had to sit down, write a letter explaining why she's writing to my mother, put it in an envelope, put the stamp on and everything to give Miss Cleo to take home.
No way. How old was Cleo?
She was a
preschooler.
Yes.
3-4 years.
Maybe not even all that.
Oh my goodness.
So then from Teacher Leah's school, I then went to the primary school. Now I started primary school at what we used to call the station school. And the reason that we called it station school, that is where the old police station used to be. So I started school there, and then the Canadians came in and built the Granby Primary School. So we moved to there. And then from there, went through the school system, got a scholarship at the age of 10. I was number 16 on the island list. And then at the time, the government would tell you where the children were placed.
Okay.
Now, Cleo was already going to convent, and my other sister and I were getting ready to enter high school. And my mother decided that her girls are going to convent.
Okay.
And government said that I was going to Wesley High School. And my mother said, Pala. So obviously Delia went to convent.
Mm-hmm.
When we went to register, the nun said, oh, but she's young. So you can leave her in primary school and she will come into high school in the next year. My mother said, Pala, she is going to high school and she's going now.
Mm-hmm. And she maybe give them a Creole there?
No. My mother would not go that way, and especially she knew the nun was from Belgium and she wouldn't understand and so on. But she was forceful in her own way. So I went to convent 5 years, and imagine graduating out of high school at the age of 15.
Yes, young.
What am I going to do? I'm not ready to work and all of that. And then convent only had a secretarial sixth form at the time. So I didn't really want to go to college yet. I wasn't ready for C4 15 years. So we did what we did, and I ended up repeating fifth form at grammar school. So I went back to fifth form, but not at convent.
At a different school?
Yes.
What was the point, Delia?
Because I wasn't ready for college.
Okay.
And the convent would not take me back.
Okay.
So I did it at grammar school, and then one of the outcomes of me being at grammar school for 1 year was that I met a handsome guy, and my son's father.
Oh. You have a son?
Yes, I have a son.
Okay.
I made one child.
One child? Yes, and you adopted one?
Yes.
Okay.
I adopted quite a few.
Okay.
Some have adopted me and so on.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did the horizontal mambo when I was in sixth form. So we didn't do it while I was in convent, in grammar school.
Lord Jesus, don't kill me tonight, dear, please. Horizontal mambo.
So I said to my my friends that I went to sixth form with, I said to them, you realize I was brighter than all of you.
So that is what I was going to ask Delia, even before we spoke about the horizontal mambo. So did you see the exams at the convent?
Yes, I did.
You sat exams?
Yes, I did the GC exams.
And you sat exams again at grammar school?
Yes, in fact, some of the subjects that I wasn't quite satisfied with my grade, I did them over while I was at grammar school.
Okay.
And so then from there I moved on to C4 and I got pregnant during my first year. So I said to my friends, I was smarter than you all. It took you all 2 years to get a degree. I got mine in 1 year.
Jesus, Lord have mercy.
No, because Ferdina, let me tell you something.
Lord.
For some strange reason, I have always tended to look on the bright side of everything. It's not that I'm not affected by the dark things, but for me, yes, let's turn it around. Is there something good out of it and so on? I told my friends that I was pregnant and so on, and they didn't believe me because I was as flat as a penis that hadn't had any blood.
Okay, so
I
was very
like
small.
Seven months and my stomach was still flat.
Okay.
So I said to them, I wouldn't lie to you all. So by the time I had a little bump, I
was ready
to
make the
baby.
baby.
Yeah.
So did you have an opportunity to continue at all?
At the time, the opportunity was there, but
you just left it alone.
Yes, because I felt you put a little person on the earth, you can be a school child.
Okay.
So get to big woman business and start taking care of your child and yourself.
And where is that little person right now? Well, big person now.
He's there. Maybe you know him very well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He worked at the church for a while. It's only after Hurricane Maria that he got laid off and so on.
Okay.
Brent Williams. Everybody knows Brent.
I'm sure I know Brent.
Of course you do. And everybody's like, you are Brent, mommy? Yes. And he warned me, Ferdina. He told me you're going on the show. Just be careful what you say. So, Brenty.
So, mommy's being careful. That is all mommy will say.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you focused on your young child,
yes.
your baby,
and in fact, my mother wanted me to be a teenager and to enjoy my life, but somehow I was very serious. I am like, you spoke to me, I didn't listen to you, I got what I got, so I have to take responsibility for myself. So that was when I started teaching at grammar school.
Okay, somebody just said you were their teacher.
Right.
Yes.
So I taught at grammar school, and surprisingly, I taught some people who were older than me, but I was the teacher, and they had to understand. And I told them that from very early, because imagine me, Ferdina, going to teach at grammar school, some big men with beard in their face and all of that. I am the size of a figure one. And to make bad matters worse, I went to grammar school teaching people's children with knobs in my hair because my hair was all natural and so on. I put my knobs in my hair. I just didn't put my ribbons. And so my mother said to me,
"But that's impossible." I find so too.
So she took me to the hairdresser, Annie, on Virgin Lane. And Annie permed my hair. And Annie was like in heaven because she's like, oh my God, it's been a while I have found a head of virgin hair like that. But the thing is, I sweat a lot in my head. So the only time my hair will lie down is when I am at the hairdresser. Once I get out from there, the roots start springing out. And I wasn't really a fan of those kinds of things. So yes,
but you couldn't go to school and teach the people children with knobs in your hair.
Maybe not knobs, but I could have put an adult Congo hairstyle, something. I didn't have to texturize my hair, comb my hair to look.
How old were you at that time?
18.
18. So your mother still had control over you.
But my mother is the kind of person that once you are alive and she is alive, you are her child. It doesn't matter what age you are. You owe her respect, and the most you might do is shut your mouth. Because if you answer out of the way, she'll fix you up. Okay? And I love her for that. Because a lot of who I am now is because of who I saw her be. Sometimes we didn't appreciate what she did, but I mean, in retrospect, when you look back, I appreciate every single thing that she did. So I taught at grammar school for a little while, and I mean, somehow I have always believed that I can do everything. So I taught integrated science, which I had never learned at school, but I was very good in the sciences. I also taught agricultural science that I had not done as a subject, but I could put my chemistry, biology, physics principles together and get my students to go through. So they had quite a bit of work to do. So we did the Saturday work, and when we had to do dissection, one child brought a chicken from her mother's home, and we did it. We did what we had to do, and we got wonderful results for grammar school that year. Then I left and I went on vacation. I went to Martinique. But just prior to me going on vacation, I remember Edward Lawrence, Tusha. He wanted to apply for some scholarship, but he couldn't because he didn't have maths as a subject. So he was talking to me, so I'm like, but Tusha, just let me lend you my maths.
What?
And then, that is me. So I said, it's maths you're missing, let me just lend you my maths and then you can apply for the thing. So he said, but Delia, for true, you have the qualifications, so why don't you apply for it? So I'm like, what is this thing about? That was the that was the scholarship to go to study agriculture in Trinidad. So I filled out the application, sent it off, and I went on vacation. While I'm in Martinique, my mom called and she said, Delia, you have a letter from government of Dominica Union. So I said, open it.
Yes.
So she told me, you had applied for a scholarship now? I'm like, what scholarship is that? Because I forget all about that. So she's reading it to me, and then I'm like, oh, okay. So I had to kind of...
So you still Tusha scholarship?
No. He gave it to me. He gave it to me. Because I didn't know anything about it. And so I came down, got my little business in order, signed my bond and whatever, and off I went to Trinidad.
For how long?
2 years.
2 years. And the degree was what degree? An associate?
It was a diploma in agriculture.
Okay.
So during that time, so we're getting $278 as stipend every month. But remember, I left a little person in Dominica. So my ears are to the ground, and any Dominican I know who is coming through, I buy little things and tell them, can you take this home to my mom for me, and so on. And I was able to save my money and manage my business. So while people were running short of money mid-month, Delia
Not
had
you.
savings,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to pinch my pennies, and I really started coming into my own and realizing that, you know, this is not a person that you play with. And so the teachers in Trinidad, some of them, when you mention my name to them, they just shake their heads because I was stubborn.
Well, you accepted that from the beginning of the show. You
That's
said that's
fine.
why you put
That's
your hands
fine.
up.
That is fine because my mom actually said I sent a child to Trinidad, I got back
A woman.
Yes. And even like that was when I started standing up for other people and standing up for myself. And so, for example, there was one morning that we had a practical to do. So we were planting cane, so we had to be out before the sun. So we're out there and we're doing our work, but we have to get ready for class at 8 o'clock. When we finish planting the section that's allocated to us, there's still a huge pile of cane. Now the thing about it is that we did that on a Friday, and if we left the cane over the weekend, the viability of the cane goes down. So your chances of getting good planting material by Monday is a lot less. So they said, okay, we're going to plow up some more land, so y'all will just do the rest of the cane that is done. So I said to them, so if we're done, I'm not planting more cane. It was just to get the practice, but I'm done with that. I remember clearly, there was another Dominican guy, I won't call his name. There was a guy from St. Vincent, there was a woman from Montserrat, and myself. We decided that we were not planting any more cane. The others protested in different ways. So for example, some people went through the motions but never put the cane down. So they put their fertilizer, they opened the furrows, they did everything, but there was no cane there. I said to them, I'm not doing that.
Nothing.
I am
Not
just
a
not
thing.
planting. So they said, Miss Cuffy, you are required on the field. And I said I am not going. So I was expecting that they would be coming for me. And I said, well, I know already they'll do me something, but it doesn't matter to me. No. Prior to that, after that, we had to do our milking practicals where you have to hand milk a cow and get it done within a certain amount of time and all of that. So I went ahead, I did my practical, and the tutor was a very hard man. If he told you, you passed, Ferdina, you can throw a party.
Oh wow.
Because it's not easy like that to pass. When I did my milking practical, he said to me, Miss Cuffy, I am satisfied you can hand milk a cow.
Yes.
Then they put up the results, and that is after the cane planting thing, and the names of the students who have to redo the practical, they're up there, and my name is among them.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. So when it was my day for doing the milking practicals, I went to all the girls who had rings and I borrowed their rings because you're not supposed to have any rings on your fingers. So I was like any big papa, rings on all fingers that would have rings. And then I went to the place, I made sure I put milk everywhere except in the pail that I'm supposed to be milking in. And I felt sorry for the animal because with all of those rings and all of the squeezing and so on, I passed.
What?
Yeah. They were trying to punish me and they thought most probably I would come and plead or whatever it is. But I'm like, okay, you're punishing me, let's see who's punishing whom.
Oh my, you're a bad lady.
Not quite.
You
Not
Modi.
quite. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I passed.
You passed.
And I was so dissatisfied with how they were treating us, Ferdina,
Yes.
that I decided I'm going to the graduation ceremony as a guest. So I refused to put on the gown and cap, and I refused to sit with the graduating class.
You're very rebellious.
Maybe. I sat in the audience, And so they're doing their certificate ceremony and so on, and they call my name how many times, and I refuse to work for it. And people are like, "No, you call it?" And I'm like, "I don't want it." And they tried to give it to me after I told them I don't want it. So I left Trinidad without my certificate. So they posted it down to Dominica for me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so after the graduation ceremony, you have tutors now who have treated you like animals during the 2 years. You have now graduated, so you're a person. And they want us to socialize with them. And I said, no, not part of the hypocrisy. So the principal of the school looks at me and he says, "Miss Cuffy, come have a drink." And I'm like, "No, sir, no, thank you." "Why?" I said, "Sir, I don't eat and drink with traitors."
Oh my goodness. But what was the reason for treating you all so badly though, Delia? What was
that was just the whole mentality of the place, that they could not be friends with us. They had to appear to be like tyrants to get you to do what you have to do and focus.
But to what end though? To what end?
Absolutely no idea.
So were you the only person who did that?
Yes.
Yes.
That was my protest.
That was your personal protest.
Everybody else went in
and you could not be bothered. But Delia, you won a scholarship.
So, in fact, Ferdina, every second year student is supposed to submit a project, a final year project. And there was one of the tutors who was doing his doctoral studies at UWI at the time. So he put forward some topics that he wanted us to research, so he would just plug it into his own studies. But for me, that didn't make any sense. Dominica wasn't going to benefit from that. It didn't have any significance for me. So I got my own topic.
But you
and I did. Of course, you can. That was just a suggestion. I got my own topic, which was investigating whether the sex of an animal and the birth weight had anything to do with the growth rate. So whether male animals grow faster than female animals, even if they're on the same feed regimen and so on. And so I did my research, and so you have to defend your research. And I remember it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, because you know they doing individual thing and you have to wait until your turn. And all they kept asking me is, why didn't you do the topic that was assigned to you?
I agree. I want to know why you deviated from it.
And I said to them, it was irrelevant for my country. I wasn't going to do any research that my country was not going to benefit from. Well, they refused to accept my research. And I said, no problem. So they say you have to do additional work on it and this and that. But then I just went to the closest store. I bought a number of covers in the different colors.
Covers?
Yes, covers for the project. And I just kept changing the cover of the project and submitting it. I changed nothing. So school was finished and most people left the campus, and I was there for like 2 weeks by myself, and they're refusing to accept the project.
Oh my God.
And I said to the tutor, let me tell you something. I'm supposed to be at my mother's home. You see the kitchen closed, so that means nobody come in and cook food for me. And the little bit of money I had finished. So unless you intend to take me to your home and take care of me, you better accept the project.
Because you were not changing it.
They accepted the project.
Delia, you were probably just in your early 20s by then.
Not quite, just about 20. Wow. But then,
listen, let me ask you this question. From whom did you inherit this?
From my African ancestors.
Oh.
Let me tell you something. My mother has a warrior spirit. Okay? And my father was kind of very quiet, but he could be, when he fixated on something, he would stay there.
Okay.
So Delia has been like that for a while. And I mean, it's just that people didn't know, but people don't, that's why I say to people, nobody gets me to do anything that I do not want to do. So people tell me, oh, you'll become a Pentecostal just now, you're going with Mr. Weekes. I'm like, no.
18 years later.
If I go to any religion, if I leave the Catholic Church, it is because Delia wants to do it. Not because I don't do things for people, I do them for me.
So you are an agriculturist by profession.
Yes.
Following that Trinidad stint, did you do anything else leading up to this?
Well, I basically stayed. In fact, when I came back from studying, I was told that there was no job for me.
Oh.
Now, I had left Dominica as a teacher. So I went through the Ministry of Education and I was placed at the St. Martin Primary School.
Okay, so you went back to teach?
No, I do not know how to teach infants. I stayed there for 1 week.
1 week?
1 week. I went to the nun and I said to her, look, I think I am going to do a disservice to the children because that's their foundation in education. And I am a frustrated teacher because I do not know how to teach them. She said, well, miss, this is the only class we have available. During that week, Ferdina, there was one little child, a barrier child.
A what child?
A barrier child.
What does that mean?
She was one of those children that her mother was in the States, sending them all kinds of things.
A burial child.
Yes.
I get you.
So she had lots of things.
But a lot of material.
Right,
things.
but she was lacking in emotional support. So there am I, very unsure of myself as an infant teacher, trying my best to teach the children, and this child would just pipe up in the middle. Miss, my mommy called last night. Miss. And I'm like, Jesus, please. And my classroom was looking out onto Constitution Hill. And I was certain, Ferdina, that I was going to take the child and throw her out the window. So I said, no, Delia. You need a different strategy.
Yes, indeed.
So I said, you know what? That child is seeking attention. So I took her out from where she was. I put her to sit very close to my desk. And every time I passed, I would touch her. I would pat her. The child settled down.
So you could do it after all, Delia.
Yes.
You could deal with infants after all.
In a kind of a way, but listen to me, they were not employing me to deal with children and their emotional thing. The children needed to learn how to read and write and spell, and I couldn't do that.
I see.
Then they called me and told me I had been transferred to Roosevelt School.
Oh boy.
And then, while I was on my way to the first half meeting, I got another call that I had been placed at Massac School to teach agriculture in the JSP section.
Okay.
So I'm like, yes,
that's a
that
little
is
bit more down up your alley.
right. And so teaching has had its challenges, but it's something that I love.
Okay.
Because I can see me impacting people. And I never took the herd approach to say, well, okay, everybody getting the same thing. I realized the children in Form 1, those are the ones who had failed to pass common entrance for whatever reason. And so you had children of different abilities. There were children you cannot decipher. How is it that that child did not pass common entrance? They must have been having a bad day.
Yes, something went wrong.
And there were some of them in the class who could just write their name, and that was it, in Form 1.
Sad.
And so I kind of structured my class in such a way that I gave them work according to their abilities. And those who needed more help, I helped them.
So how is it, Delia, you were able to manage well with the older children as opposed to the smaller children? Is it a lack of patience probably when it came to the...
No, I was very unsure of, for me it was like these children are at the stage where you're setting their foundation, and I felt to myself that I was not strong enough to give them a good foundation.
I understand.
And I didn't want to do that to them. So the bigger ones, I was able to work with them. And coming from a big family, you know, you realize you have all kinds of personalities. So those who are loud, I would call them to the side and I would give them, you know. And so I ran my class not according to the school rules per se, but I gave them my rules and regulations as if they were my children.
Okay.
So I said to them, look, I don't want any hems dragging. I do not want any holes under your arms and so on. I don't care what color thread you use to sew it. Just don't bring me any post office when you put up your hand from to be seen under your arm. Your hair had to be combed. So morning assembly, I am passing with a pencil and I'm pushing it through your hair, and if it doesn't come up, then you have to go to the end of the line because I've given you the Afro pick and comb your hair for me. You have to put your nails, your hands up, and if I can see your nails above your finger, your nails are too long. So go to the end of the line and cut your nails. I give you the nail clipper. And so the children had me. I was kind of strict with them.
Yes. But you also taught them social skills.
Right. So
how to be a young lady.
During the time that they were in my class, they would go to the grade 7. Those are the children preparing for common entrance, and say to them, make sure you all pass your common entrance because that teacher wicked and whatever.
So you were the wicked teacher.
Right. As a matter of fact, if you ask any of the boys who were in my class at the time, they had given me a nickname, Miss Bentos. What? Because, you know, children have tricks, right? And at the time, we were allowed to beat children in school.
Okay.
So I explained my ground rules to them all the time. Told them, if I give you homework, try to do it. Even if you get it wrong, it doesn't affect me as much as if you don't do it at all. So when I ask for my homework and I ask them to open their books, oh miss, I had forget my book, oh miss, my... So they know, you didn't do any, you get 3 strokes. Nobody gets more than 3. And then depending on what you think, so you might get 1 or 2. So the boys used to put cardboard in their pants. So I would tell them, bend and touch your toes. And when I give you the first one, based on the sound that I hear, I know whether you have cardboard or not. So I'll tell you, take it out.
Oh my!
And then the girls,
those kids were sneaky, man.
and the girls now had to hold the front of their skirts, and I would beat them on their bottom. I'm not flinging whip all over the place, you know, Ferdina. I'm very structured in what I'm doing.
You were a wicked teacher.
I wasn't a wicked teacher. 3 strokes on your fleshy bum. So there is one young lady who gave me a particular hard time, and when she got the first stroke, some expletives came out of her mouth. And so, because what happened, she had been struggling with me, and so I said, okay, you don't want to hold the skirt, so I held on to the front of the skirt, and it was tight against her bum. So when she got the first stroke, she let off. So I let go the front of the skirt and I held her. And I took her down to the principal's office.
Okay.
And so, at the time, the principal was Peter R. Augustine.
Oh.
So we walked into his office and he's like, Miss Cuffy, what's going on? I said, so ask her. So he asked the child. So she said, well, sir, I didn't do my homework. And Miss was beating me, and when she gave me the first room, so he was like, excuse me? Yes, sir. When she was beating me? So he said, but you're not speaking, I cannot understand you. So she says, sir, I cannot tell you what I tell her. So he said, oh, you could tell Miss Coffee, but you cannot tell me? Miss Coffee, how many strokes did you have to give her? I say, sir, 3. How many did she get? So 1. He says, come, I'll give you the other 2.
He gave her the other 2.
He gave her the other 2.
Any parents ever came at you for caning their children, meeting their children?
Actually, the parents came, and for me it was amazing because they would be like, Miss Cuffy, I want you to talk to this one, and what I'm like, what is going on? But Miss Cuffy, she doesn't listen to anything that I say. She ready to jump on me in the house, and everything I hear is Miss Cuffy say, Miss Cuffy say, Miss Cuffy say. And for Diana, it was embarrassing. Because sometimes when parents came to me with those kinds of stories, and I began to investigate why the children were behaving that way with their parents, the disgusting things I found out.
Yes.
I didn't even know how to tell the parent, this is at the root of the problem. And so I guess from that area there, I had started doing my social work.
Yes.
And trying to mold children, you know, and get them to be very proud of themselves as individuals, so that they will not really led astray by others. And even to this day, for Diana, the parents of those children, I'm talking about 1986 to 1988, the parents of those children still have me in high regard. The children themselves will tell you that's our best teacher. Because even
somebody said that was my best teacher, right there.
Even after they left my class, so they left from Form 1 and they went to Form 2, they would not give me a break. And I'm like, what are you all doing by my class? God has saved you all. He has relieved you all of that wicked teacher. Miss, we love you.
Interesting point though, that a viewer, oh my God, the comments are going up. A viewer is just making it. The person is saying that could never happen today. She would get a cool wash.
Well, tell the person, go and be more salty. Go serve for a wash.
And he's making another point. Children today are rebels.
No, because I will tell you what, Ferdina. Children today are rebels because we do not take authority. Long after caning was banned, I went as an agricultural officer to do something at grammar school. And it was 4-H, it was after school and so on. And this guy comes to enter the session with his pants below his butt. So I said to him, excuse me, where do you think you're going? So he's like, Miss Tiger, I go in. I said, whoop. This is my session and you're not coming into my session dressed like that. So he said, but Miss, what happened to my clothes? I said, what happened to your clothes? Where's your waist? Your pant is supposed to be at your waist, not under your bottom. But Miss, I'm telling you, I was telling my mother that too, you know. Nobody not making me put my pants higher than that. I said, boy, let me tell you that. Your mother accepting that from you. But you see, me, I'm not accepting that from you. If you have to enter my class, and I have to dress you, when you see I hold the pants and I pull it up under your breast and I give you an urkel, you will find out. He was like, what, Miss, you bad man. I said, no, I'm just not taking any nonsense from anybody. He said, okay, Miss. He stood aside, he fixed himself. He said, Miss, that good now? I said, you look like a perfect gentleman. And he came in. And the teacher was there in the class and she was like, okay.
Well, let me ask you, Delia, the teaching experience, what did it teach you, if anything?
It taught me a number of things that I know. That one of them is that you don't know everything. There is always something that you can learn, sometimes out of the nonsense that children speak. It also taught me that sometimes we have to look at how we deal with issues. Because if you keep doing the same old thing all the time, you will get the same results. There was one boy in Massac school, he was very disruptive. And giving him blows wasn't an option. He was immune to that. In any case, I was not a teacher who just beat you for beating him. So I said, okay, I'm going to use reverse psychology on him. I put him as my deputy teacher.
And
you
give him responsibility.
Yes. So if I had to leave to go down to the principal's office, Ferdina, he took over. And my class had to be quiet. Not a pin could drop. By the time I come back up, he has given me a list of who was giggling, and even if the names are badly spelled. And from that, he began to get a sense of self-importance, and he just changed. Right now, he's a pastor. And he keeps telling everybody, you see, that teacher, she is the person who made me who I am. He stopped in Rosa one day with his wife, and he said to the wife, look, the lady, I tell you, that's the only teacher that beat me in maths at school. And he loves me.
Yes.
So you understand, you have to try different things with different children. And also, when children realize you're interested in them as a person, not just a statistic, not just to make sure that your class gets 100%, but you work with each person to get them to an excellent point based on their ability. Even if your excellent is 60%, you put in the extra work. Because I know people are eternally grateful. And sometimes some things that you think that are insignificant, it stays with people. A young man walked into the gardens one day. I didn't remember him because he's from La Plaine. I worked in La Plaine for a while, and while I was up there, I taught the agriculture class. And he says to me, Miss, I can spell agriculture now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, Miss, you remember the day when we were misbehaving and you didn't take us on? And as the bell ring for us to go home at the end of the day, you told us everybody pull out a sheet of paper and write for me agriculture. Some of them could, so they wrote it, and I told them, good afternoon.
Go home, all right.
And then those who struggled through, and he was one of those that I must have let out of the class maybe like half an hour after he was supposed to go, because he could not spell agriculture. But he's now very proud
That he
Miss,
could
I can spell agriculture. We tell Miss, I make an effort. And I mean, I didn't even remember the young man. And you know, there's lots of interactions. And the thing about it is that even if you're teaching a child, you are impacting the parents. You're impacting the entire community. And so what you say to that child can make or break them. Because we have to understand that, you know, people come with all of their problems. And the fact that a child is sleeping in class doesn't mean that the child is uninterested. But what extra duties does the child have to do when they're at home? Is it that the child is sleeping because they're hungry?
Yes.
So all of those things, you have to really become. That is why I say to people, teaching is not a job. It is a profession. And so even as an agriculturist, I tell them, I am still a teacher. But I teach in a classroom without walls.
Without walls.
Yes.
9:31 is the
God.
time in the studios. I want to give Mrs. Weekes an opportunity to have a sip of water. We've been doing a lot of talking and a lot of exciting talking too, and we still have our audience captivated. So thank you for being captivated. We still have a lot to talk to Delia about. She says she's a social worker at heart. We'll find out why she says that. She's one of the founding members of the Roseau Cultural Group. She's a cultural enthusiast. She's a dramatist, a poet, a writer. She's still has a lot that we have to talk about. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're coming back to continue discussing with Delia Cuffy-Weekes. Let me just once again say thanks to Q95 FM, to Josephine Gabriel and Company. They provide us with our tropical water, and mine is almost done. I suspect I need to walk along with two when I'm coming. Thanks to Deepex for their support, Jordan Jerome, Akim Lowe of Innovate Multimedia, and of course you the listeners and you the fans. Let me invite you as well while you're here to like our In the Spotlight Radio Show page. We also have a group by In the Spotlight Radio Show, so you can look for that and follow and like as well. On a personal level, there is my public page, which is Ferdina Fernanda Frampton. You actually have to type in the Fernanda, which is, by the way, the triple F that I refer to. So it's Ferdina Fernanda Frampton, and you can follow me and like that page as well. And of course, my very new venture, which is my marketing and advertising, my triple F marketing and advertising. You can also look out for that page and like it and follow it as well. We're just gonna do this, and we're coming back to talk again with Delia.
Where did the time go?
What's that? You didn't realize that the time go? Oh boy, I'm telling you. It runs by very quickly. Oh, I love this lady. I can't even get up to it. So oh, I want them. Yes, you want to tell them you. I want all you. Yes, good stuff.
Music, culture, the media, and more. Getting to know
I don't know everybody do I vote.
No, you Modi. One shit.
I know I am.
What? I can be figurehead. Mm-hmm. Ay, ay, ay. Thank you guys for staying locked in. I hope you can get an opportunity today to read all those comments.
Don't worry, when I get home.
When you get home?
When I get home. When you post the thing,
Uh-huh.
I look at the program and then I try to look at the comments in real time and so on.
Oh,
yeah, man.
okay.
In the Spotlight on Q95 FM Radio every Monday night from
I only hope they're not blowing up my Facebook page.
Ferdina tells you they are with a piece of fruitcake just for her. Electrician.
Oh my God, electrician, you'd have to do that.
Wow. I know it didn't where this I went to for real.
I really don't know.
I never knew her to be moody. She was very quiet.
Very quiet.
So it's when you open your mouth.
Some people are shocked.
It's 1:40 a.m. and I'm up and enjoying the show. Lizzie, my friend in England.
Okay.
Really nice lady. I'm truly enjoying this program. Love it and the guests. Okay, we're gonna continue.
Yep.
All right, Delia. So we're going to be done with the whole teaching thing.
Yes.
You've shared with us a lot about that, and we really appreciate all of that. But we have to talk a bit about the fact that you refer to yourself as a social worker at heart, and we're going to at the same time speak about your petition. I know this is something that is very close to your heart as well, which is the age of consent, and your position is that it should be raised. So we're going to talk about you being a social worker at heart, and we're going to tie this in because I think they're connected.
Yeah.
Yes, let's go.
So, Ferdina, the thing is, what does a social worker do? A social worker looks around at the society, tries to identify what is really going on, and try to come up with possible solutions to situations. And when I say I'm a social worker at heart, it means that I'm not one of those people that somebody would say, I'm hungry, and then you say, well, go with God. I pray that He provides something for you. That for me is not a response.
Right.
So even if I do not have it, but I need to find some way to directly deal with that problem, and then look at what caused you to be in that situation, and can we do anything to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So because of that, I do a lot of advocacy. I speak on behalf of those who cannot or will not speak for whatever reason. And so that is why sometimes some things get me very angry, maybe more angry than the average person. So that is why in January of 2013, when we had the rash of videos that came out with the young girls in all kinds of compromising situations.
You were here. You actually joined me on a program to speak to that. Yes.
And you know, one of the things that really got me even more upset for Diana was not just that this was happening, but the fact that a large part of our society was placing the blame squarely on the shoulders of the young girls. And I'm like, something is wrong with us if we cannot see that yes, it is wrong for the young girls to be involved in that action, but what is the responsibility of the adult and what are we doing about it? And so I didn't even have the time to throw it out to the public or whatever. I just came up with the idea and I'm like, look, all of the girls were under the age of 16 anyway, which means that legally they could not consent to sexual activity. And for me, 16 years is ridiculous because there's only so much that you can do at the age of 16. So I'm like, people are not upset because they don't know. So it is my responsibility to get people to know. And so I started the petition online. And so people started signing up, but then the word started going around and people said to me, but I don't have Facebook, so how am I going to give you support? So I had no choice but to go and physically print out forms. And people were calling me, I don't know how people were getting my number, and people want, send forms to me, grand forms, send forms to me, and so on. So I realized people were actually agitating for the change. And so I said, look, I have to do this thing and I have to see it at least to the end. And the plan was to start the petition in January, and I targeted the 25th of November, which is like the first day of 16 days of activism to eliminate violence against women and girls. So that was a significant day for me. And I went ahead and made the appointment with the Prime Minister and so on. And sad to say, nothing much has come out of it. But people have been sensitized. We in Dominica, we like to hide behind other people. We want other people to do what needs to be done. I feel I have done what I had to do. I exposed what needed to be done.
Will you try again?
I will keep agitating in my own way until something is done. Because, Ferdina, as I say, I don't know if you recently read an open letter that I wrote to the Prime Minister last year, which would have been the 7th anniversary.
Yes.
And I am making the point that a child who would have been 9 years old at the time that I started the petition is now at the age of consent. And we keep saying that the children are our future.
So what age do you want the age of consent to be? What age are you
advocating for me, in the Commonwealth of Dominica, we consider a person an adult at the age of 18. They can make certain decisions on their own, they can take certain responsibilities. And having sex comes with a lot of consequences. So why should I give you permission to have sex and yet still you are not equipped or able to deal with all of the possible things that may come? If the government feel that they do not want to change the age of consent, they want to leave it at 16, then it's all fine. Move the age of majority down to 16. So let somebody at the age of 16 decide that they're moving out of their mother's home and they can get married without parental consent.
Okay.
Since that petition started, Ferdina, Trinidad has moved their age of consent from 16 to 18. They have changed their laws and put certain provisos in there that even if somebody is under the age of 18, but if there is like 2 years difference between them and the person that they're having sex with, then it falls into a particular category, because a lot of people will say, oh, but if you have a 16-year-old girl and an 18-year-old boy, the boy will go to jail and so on. So Trinidad has thought it out. And it is not just something that is wrong with the Dominican society. Yeah? Just recently, I saw a post on Facebook that had me boiling. And people might find I'm funny. But this girl is congratulating her parents for having been married for 40-something years. But Ferdina, when you do the calculations, the child, the little girl child, got pregnant at the age of 12. And the man was 23 years old. Because of how she put the information there, I cannot even help her to congratulate her parents for having stayed married for so long. Granted, he married her, but he is a rapist. He has committed a crime. The fact that somebody holds you, Ferdina, and rape you, and you become pregnant, and then they decide to marry you, does not negate the fact that you were raped.
Because you were under the age of consent.
Yes. So that is the whole thing. So for me, some people don't even know their rights. Some people are unable or unwilling to stand up for their own selves. And when I hear of those things, I get all hot and bothered, and I don't want to listen to reason. I don't want anybody to tell me anything, because somebody needs to know Weekes is upset about this thing, and at least somebody tell me something is going to be done. So that is what it is. And so sometimes I do work very publicly. A lot of the work that I do very
behind
privately.
the scenes.
Because Ferdina, there are so many needs in our society. There are many people who are walking about and they're just ticking time bombs. Ferdina, we have a serious problem with sexual abuse in our communities. And people are struggling. There are people who are in very high positions in society. And every day is a constant struggle because of something that happened to them when they were preschool age or teenage or whatever. And I see what those things do to people, and I cannot keep quiet. Now sometimes people reach out to me to try to use me to further their own ventures, but I don't fall for that. I'm like,
you're too smart.
if you want to do this thing, I can lend you my support, but I'm not going to be your front person. If you feel strongly about it, be out there. Mrs. Weekes will give you all the support you need, but don't ask me to front for you.
Yes.
You
Yes, front with me. I'll
So-
front with you.
Yeah, so that is all the social work with Ferdina. Is not just telling people, okay, I understand.
I agree, and that's how it should be. Because you seem to advocate for vulnerable groups.
Yes.
More so children, as you've mentioned, women, the elderly, and
Disabled
very
people too.
important persons with disabilities.
Yes, because Ferdina, I'll tell people, I had a disabled sister.
Okay.
She was very much a part of my family. So for us, she was not disabled. Because we grew up, we knew she was there, we knew she was different to us, but she was accepted. Even when she passed away, that's the only one of my mother's children that has passed. It was a great loss to the family. And for me, because of her, I cannot tolerate anybody taking advantage of a disabled person. God has put me in certain situations to prepare me for different things that I am now seeing in my life. So I'm like, oh, that is why God gave me a disabled sister who used to make a mess and paint up the place with it and all of that. I am immune to those things. So if I go in there, I remember one Saturday I was going to the market and there was this little gentleman on River Street, and he was trying to call out to somebody from his window. He needed some water to drink, but he was kind of bedridden. So I entered the house to help him, and as soon as I entered the house, then I stepped into a puddle of urine. And for me it was nothing. I got him his water. I asked him, you have a pail, you have a mop, And I went to the standpipe close by and I mopped the little place for him. And I had a conversation with him, you know, to find out how do you eat and whatever it is. So I brought him a meal this Sunday and so on. And he told me generally he is well taken care of, but it's just that, yes. So sometimes he has a little accident and so on. And I'm like, those things happen.
It's not very often you hear somebody is volunteering at the oncology department. Tell me your involvement with the Cancer Society and how do you go about volunteering? What do you do?
I am actually a member of the Dominican Cancer Society, and people can participate at different levels. You can become a member of the parent body where you just pay your annual subscription and attend like quarterly meetings. You can get a little bit more intimate by being like a supporter with the Rosa support group. That is where you have a number of survivors, people who are affected by cancer, and other people who support them, because we try to make people understand that there is life after the diagnosis of cancer. So we focus on educating ourselves and celebrating birthdays and having a good time, because you may have cancer, but cancer doesn't have you. So that in itself is social support for the families that are affected. Now, there are a number of small groupings within the Cancer Society. So we have like our hospital ministry, where somebody will be informed of anybody who has come onto a ward at the hospital with a cancer-related something, whether surgery or so on. So we begin to follow up with them and possibly link them up to somebody who has had cancer, who will walk them through, when I had my cancer, this is what I did. And so that in itself is support. For the oncology department, they have the different clinics where they do the routine checks when they come to see the doctor, just to progress, to see how they're progressing. Or for example, if they're doing their chemo treatments and they need help on those days, you have one or at most two nurses at the oncology department dealing with a number of patients. And Ferdina, I must take the time to shout out to those nurses, because they work above and beyond, to the point that sometimes I have to keep telling them, take a break, go to eat something, because if you do not take care of yourself, you cannot take care of anybody. Sometimes they're not well themselves, and they come like patients. There's a nurse Richards, Clara Richards. She's an army by herself. And you have a nurse Matthew. Sometimes Sister Francis, who is the overall supervisor for the outpatient clinics, she's there as well. And Ferdina, so I am there. If I am there on an oncology chemo day, then it is my responsibility to go to the pharmacy to collect the drugs so that the people can begin their chemo. Some of them have very long cycles. So imagine you have to be in a chair for 5 hours because they have to give you different mixtures and so on. And sometimes it can be very draining. While you're there, you may want some water. You cannot disconnect from the machine. So I am your legs, I am your feet.
And I would imagine, Delia, that you would probably also be there providing some kind of support in terms of talking,
sometimes people just
having
want
conversations and that kind of thing.
Sometimes I do education sessions, so depending on what the crowd is like, we will sit down. And while they're waiting to see the doctor, they will ask questions and I will provide answers and so on. Sometimes people are more private, and so they may come to meet me outside or, you know, try to get my attention and want to talk one-on-one. That is fine as well. So we are available to assist.
This is really good stuff.
Because, Ferdina, I have lost quite a few members on my father's side to cancer. I have already told the cancer that this temple of the Lord has no space for it. So I do my necessaries, I do my breast self-exam monthly, I do my pap smears, I do everything that I need to do. And I also encourage people, take care of yourself. So imagine, sometimes I'm in the line at the cashier. There's a woman in front of me, I lean over and say, Darling, when was the last time you had a pap smear? And sometimes some of them they're like, I never do one.
But that lady wool there.
No, I never get that.
Uh-huh.
I never get that. Sometimes men join in. And I say to them, you know, I never do one, but they tell me it's hurting. I say, why should they tell you? Night never tell you anything. If you're afraid, make the appointment. I will come with you. I tell them, I go to do my pap smear. The nurses at the health center fed up with me. Because they do that so professionally. I lie down there, my leg open, and they're like, lady, close your leg and get off my bed. Because they do it so quick.
Yes, yes.
And I also to say to them, you know, even if you feel any discomfort, what is a few seconds of discomfort as
It's not
compared
long,
to
it's
the
not long.
suffering
I mean, if
that
that the
some
stuff is
people go
cold,
through?
it's cold when it goes in,
Yeah,
and
but-
then you know you feel the well.
But
yeah.
I would rather go through that
Mhm.
every month
Mhm.
than some of the suffering that
Yeah.
women go through when they're dying from cervical cancer.
Yeah.
And that is something that does not need to happen.
Yeah.
Same thing with men, afraid of a doctor or a nurse pushing
To
their hand in
you.
their bottom. Just a few seconds, just to tell you your prostate is healthy or not. Men suffer with prostate cancer. So the advocacy continues everywhere. I speak to my co-workers, young men, old men, anywhere I get the opportunity.
You speak.
Yes.
Yes. Get your pap smear done.
Yes.
Get your mammogram done.
Yes, and
Get
I
your
tell them,
prostate
you know,
checked.
the pap smear is free at every single health center on the island. You
Okay.
do not have to tell me you do not have money. The nurses, they do it and they do it well.
Okay.
Save yourself the problem.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Delia, we have not touched on that element as well. I noticed
My-
something about you. So your mother made you perm your hair when you were teaching little children because you were going to school with bubbles in your hair. How long did that last? Because now I see you as a very naturally beautiful lady. I've seen you naturally here for a very long time, and you don't wear makeup. I hardly see you with makeup. Do you have earrings on? When I visited you, you didn't have earrings on. No earrings. Mr. Weekes doesn't tell you nothing, so you like it?
Mr. Weekes loves his low maintenance
A
woman.
very low maintenance.
Oh my God. Let me tell you what I know. When God decided to make Delia Brenda Coffee,
Oh, Brenda.
yes,
Okay.
he took his time.
Mm-hmm.
He made her,
Mm-hmm.
and then he broke the mold.
He broke the mold.
There's only one of her. And so I wore my permed hair for a little while, up to maybe the end of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, you know what?
That's not for me.
Enough of that. And so I think one day I went to work with a full head of permed hair, and I went back home with a boy head. And my mother just looked at me and she shook her head.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when my hair grew back and so on, I decided, I'm not permanent. So
You're not
my mother said, what happened? You short on cash now? I said to her, don't ever ask me that question. I'm never putting those things back in my hair.
And that was it for you.
Let me tell you a little secret. The only hairstyle that I have ever wanted to put, that I have never put, is locks.
Okay. You've wanted to put it.
Yes. I am not interested in putting locks now that locks is in style.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only hairstyle I wanted. And it's not because I am a dread. I am not a dread.
Mm-mm.
But I just knew somehow my mom would have been disappointed if I had gone that route. And so sometimes people think it's because of Mr. Weekes I do put locks, and so it's not Mr. Weekes, it's my mother.
And Mr. Weekes couldn't stop you if you wanted.
No. He would have to decide whether he wants a woman with locks or not. He would
If
have
you
to make-
decided that's what you
yes,
want.
he would have to make a decision, because I would not say, well, okay, because of my husband, no, but because of my mother. And I think like now should be quite accepting, because I have a niece with long locks reaching down her back. I have a sister and a brother with their long locks. And my son keeps struggling, Mom, just put it in.
Just put it.
But I'm like, nah,
It's okay. You're
Nah.
okay.
I'm cool.
You will
So you
take
see,
care
my hair is like this, Ferdina. I do like to pull my hair.
Mhm.
So Sometimes I give it the time of day and I take my time and untangle and so on. But most times when I do feel like untangling the hair, and I just take a cloth and wrap that and that's good to go. I have so many colors and patterns and whatever. Although somebody had looked at me once and said to me, you know, what happened? You have boo-boo in your head? Why are you tying your head like that? Rude. No, people can be very insensitive. Because what if I had something like alopecia and I am already feeling less than beautiful, and then you throw something like that at me? Come on. I remember when I did a program on DBS with a young lady who had serious alopecia, and during the break she took off her wig, and for the night I just broke down. I just started crying because I had no idea what she was going through. So people can be insensitive, but I'm just saying, you know, we have to learn to be more accepting. So Ferdina wants to perm her hair, and Ferdina has her signature hairstyle.
I tell you.
Ferdina has changed. She's now in braids.
Let me tell you, most of the hair is very natural. Actually, as to whether it will remain that way, that we'll see.
No, transitioning is very hard for most people.
Yeah.
But when you accept it,
yes.
And surprisingly, I did it for me.
Yes.
But so many people are like, you're my role model.
Aww.
And you know, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, proud about no, I live in my life.
That's
what you're
it.
About.
Delia, let's talk about, you see the time? Almost time for us to wrap it up.
We have to talk about the culture.
That's what I'm coming to, my to-do. So, first of all, how good are you? I'm trying to say it in Creole. Help me. I want to ask you, how good are you with Creole, the Creole language?
Oh, qui m'a dit ça parle créole, ça parle créole.
Oui.
Mon Dieu, Creole. Ferdina, I always say to people, Creole is my first language. When I get excited, I forget all the English I know and I automatically lapse into Creole. I don't have to think about it. I do the switch and then sometimes I catch myself based on the expression of the person that I'm speaking to. And especially if it's not a native Creole speaker, then I catch myself and I realize what has happened. But it comes naturally. I switch between the two. And you know, obviously, Creole is a language with all of the seasonings. So it is so much more colorful. And I mean, being from Granby, I didn't speak Creole when I was growing up.
Okay.
Because it was the traditional thing. You remember Songmaster sang, "Le nou te tout petit, you take a bath more, l'école pour nous parler Creole." Right. But I knew what it was all about.
Okay.
And then when I decided, okay, I want to express myself, I want to be my true self, that just became part of me naturally, just like the wearing of the dress and the cooking of the food and doing the dances. If one of them is missing, Delia is handicapped.
Yes. In terms of the Creole language, you teach it at UE as a matter of fact now.
Yes.
Which is excellent. And Delia, that is where I'm going to just point something to you. As a former teacher, we've heard it over and over again that the Creole language needs to be part of the curriculum.
Yes. Well, in fact, I don't know how many people know that, but there is actually a pilot project in, I think, 15 primary schools where the curriculum has been developed and Creole is being taught the same way you would teach French or Spanish.
Well, you'll have to go back, Delia.
To what?
To teaching.
I've never stopped teaching. I have never stopped.
In school, the Creole language?
No.
No.
Not
interested. Okay.
So.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is my alarm for my drops.
Oh my God.
I have alarms on my phone for that. Yes, Delia. So, so you teach it at UE as one of the extra classes that they do, programs that they do, and you speak it well.
Oh yes.
And you love it.
Yes.
Yes.
And in fact, there is a group on Facebook. It's what's the name of the group? It's a Creole group anyway. And one of the things that I really love about this group is that they put up different things from different countries And sometimes it is quite exciting for you to find out how things are said in different parts of the world. So for example, one of the exercises was that you were supposed to put up either an insect or an animal and try to find an emoji to show what it was. So the person who put up the bird put up Zwazo. So I'm like, where I'm from, we don't say Zwazo, we say Zozio. So somebody asked, where are you from? So I said, I'm from Dominica. The person who had put it up said that they were from Trinidad.
Oh.
But the person was living somewhere in the States. And then somebody from Martinique chimed in and said, in Martinique, we say both Zozio and Zwazo. So, you know, it kind of helps you to see the different variations. But what is interesting is that whether you're from Martinique, Guadeloupe, Seychelles, Trinidad, wherever, people can communicate among themselves. And Creole is a beautiful language. It is unique, it is part of our identity. And so for me, a Dominican person who cannot express themselves in Creole is like a person who is slightly handicapped.
Okay. And the person who is not involved in the culture, that's another whole
Well,
conversation.
the thing is, it's like somebody who has been living in a bubble, and so you know all about European culture or American culture, but then what is truly yours, you don't know about it. And that is so apparent when a lot of people leave Dominica to go to study overseas, and then they're hounding their parents to find Mrs. Weekes to send them words for a song, or to send them, if she has an extra jeep that she can lend them, or if she can. And I'm like, you lived in Dominica, you refused to immerse yourself in your culture, and now you're trying to get me to do it. But
how did you get involved, and how did you how did you become part of the Rosa Cultural Group?
well, obviously I'm from Granby, and my grandmother on my father's side was the village organizer. So there was a village fair, there was a concert. Mommy was the point person, and she loved to wear her duet. And I mean, I have been trying to think far back to see when I really became culturally aware, so to speak. And I know clearly when I went to Trinidad to study in 1984, I traveled with traditional clothes, because they have this Indian festival, Diwali, the Festival of Lights, and see me on the Indian people stage in my Creole outfit with my little fan on my head and singing and dancing. I'm like, but today do not easy. And I never travel without a piece of mattress for dining. It doesn't matter where I am.
A piece in the suitcase.
And normally I buy my mattress squares by twos. I normally say I have one for my head and one for my body. And that served me well when I went to Japan in 2015. So I had brought up a whole jeep for our end of session, end of activity session. But then when I saw how people were dressing, I'd be like, Delia, you'll be overdressed. You'll be overdressed. So I settled for a simple black dress, and I took a mattress thing and I made a decoration. And then one of the tutors, and she just fell in love with this thing. So I had to take it off and give it to her. And then another one was almost in tears because she didn't get one. So I had to rush to my room. The other one wasn't ironed. And I explained all of that to her. She said, I don't care. So I took my time and I made the same thing and I gave it to her. And Ferdina, she was like, so
very
there are
appreciative.
there are certain things that I travel with all the time. There is a lady in Granby who makes soaps, and that is how she earns her living. Her brand of soap is Exquisite Treasures. And Ferdina, most times when I'm traveling, more than half of my suitcase is soap. And I give it out to people. I say, look, try this. And a lot of people have reached out to me and said, how can I get this again?
Yes, yes.
So for me, it's not about me, but it's like pushing the culture, pushing what is truly me. And I say to people, I'm very selfish in that most of my activities center around the fact that I want to live forever. And people say, you want to live forever? Yes, that is what I'm planning to do. Because long after I am gone, people will say, Mrs. Weekes would have been. Mrs. Weekes taught me this. I can just imagine Mrs. Weekes, and maybe in heaven or wherever she is, she must be
dancing her wherever.
Yeah. You're talking about Mrs. Weekes. She rotten, her bones not good for anything, but you're still talking about her. She lives on.
Mrs. Weekes is also a dramatist and a poet and a writer. You enjoy all of this?
Yes, because remember I told you I'm very shy. So writing for me has been a way of getting things out of my system. It is not everything that I write that I share. Some of my writing is to purge. And in fact, I am actually working on 2 novels now.
Nice.
And both of them are my way of dealing with things that trouble me. One having to do with domestic violence and the impact it could have on the children who witness it, and the other one has to do with human sexuality and how sometimes we do things that impact people in ways that have long-lasting effects. So I am working on them. I started, just imagine, Ferdina, I started each one as a rant, just to get, and then these things just took on a life of their own. And so I have actually decided to go back in, look at them, do some tightening up, do some editing and so on. So sometime in the future, I can't say it's the near future, but there will be two. One called Balancing the Seesaw, which is the one to do with the children, and the other one is A Legacy of Guilt.
A Legacy of Guilt.
Yes.
In terms of, we have to get ready to wrap up, in terms of some of the awards that Mrs. Weekes has received. In 2008, she got an award for her contribution to culture, and also the Creole Dress by the National Cultural Council. In 2013, DBS, she got the Personality of the Month award, and in 2019, UE recognized her for her contribution to culture. As we're getting ready to wrap up, the final point I want to make to you, Delia, before you give your final comments, and I know you're going to leave us with some solid final words. Woman of faith, why?
I am on a journey, and on my life journey, Ferdina, this is something that nobody can do for you. You have to do it for yourself. But my faith has gotten me through lots of difficult situations. And one of the things that I will tell you that actually keeps me going is that I have discovered the beauty of forgiveness. I do not want anybody to believe that forgiveness is an easy thing. It is a very, very, very difficult thing to do. And people will come up with every reason why they should not forgive. But let me just tell you that forgiveness is for yourself. You're setting that person free, the person who has hurt you, so that you can move on. Because unless you do that, you're going to be stagnating. You're going to be in one place. And so it's not an easy thing. And I had to discover it for myself. But when you truly find the art of forgiveness, Ferdina, you are so free. And that leads to the fountain of youth. Because you are unburdened. You become almost like a dashing leaf. You see people doing things to you and you pray for them. Because they are so ignorant that they think they're doing bad to you, but you see right through them. I say to people, my third eye is wide open. So even if you think you're fooling me, and I allow you to go on thinking that you're fooling me, you haven't fooled me as yet. And I will put you on my prayer list, and I will pray the evil out of you.
That's right.
And that's my version of my faith. It has nothing to do with Catholic or this, that, and the other, which is why sometimes people say to me, you're not the typical Catholic. I know. I am not the typical anything. I am Delia Cuffy-Weekes. Delia Brenda Cuffy-Weekes, and I endorse this message.
Delia, please give us your final comments on the program. What is the key thing you would like to leave with us as we wrap it up this evening?
I want to repeat something that I heard at a funeral today.
Okay.
Tomorrow is not promised. So we need to tell people today what we think of them. Our loved ones are just on loan. And so if there is somebody that you haven't spoken to for a very long time, or somebody that you're taking for granted, tell them that you love them. You don't know that they'll be there tomorrow.
Sure. Is that it?
Yeah. I mean, if we continue for that now,
yes.
we're there until next week about the same time.
I agree.
So let's just stop it.
And you love us. You forget to tell us that.
No, but I mean, I thought it was obvious. I thought it was obvious. I mean, I don't like COVID because I'm a hugger.
Oh my goodness.
And COVID is interfering with me hugging my people. But I'm still spreading love. People love me. I love people. And sometimes I might say to somebody, I love you, and they might be like, yeah, words. I really, really, really love people.
I believe that. Leave Delia a comment, a wonderful comment on the live as we are wrapping up the program right now. Thank you everyone so much for joining us, whether by radio or whether by our Facebook Live. We really do appreciate you. Thank you. Without you, we would be useless here, talking to ourselves, talking to each other. But with you, the listeners, the fans who enjoy it, we do sincerely appreciate you. Delia Cuffy-Weekes, Delia Brenda Cuffy-Weekes, you are awesome as expected. Thank you so much for being here and agreeing to be a part of the program.
Thanks for the opportunity, Ferdina. That's my second time around.
Yes.
And I wouldn't be surprised it's somewhere in later life.
You never know. I mean, after those novels, you never know.
Delia, the writer.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. That's a wrap on the program for tonight. Join us next week, Monday, God willing, for another program. Until then, I am your host, Ferdina Frampton. Remember to follow my various social media platforms and support in whatever way that you can. Good night and thank you.
So,
Yes, baby girl.
Why did they give